Let's go over how to quickly analyze a rental property. We're specifically looking at analyzing buy and hold properties with long-term tenants. So I've just picked a random duplex off the MLS near me here in Spokane, Washington, and we can go through the analysis together using my Excel spreadsheet deal calculator. And if you want a copy of this calculator for free, you can grab it by clicking the link below this video and we can go through this together. The biggest thing to keep in mind when analyzing a deal, regardless of which calculator or method you use, is that the numbers don't need to be perfect. What I mean by this is that you don't need to know the exact values, such as the landlord paid utilities, the renovation costs, or the exact rents. You just need to make your best educated guesses for the time being so that you can decide if this is a deal worth looking into further or not. We're assuming here that you've already looked into the neighborhood, etc., and are now wondering if this is a decent deal or not based on the numbers. So let's go ahead and click into the property details. I pulled up the property here in Redfin, 1858 West College Avenue. You can use Realtor.com, whatever you would like. So we're just going to start by just reading a little bit about the details just to see what kind of information we can find out. So talking about the neighborhood. Property is an up-down duplex with 3 beds, 1 bath per unit. Neighborhood units were just renovated with new paint and flooring, so maybe not a ton of cosmetic stuff to do. Let's keep looking. Built in 1894. She is old. That is somewhat common here in Spokane. We have some old properties. Let's see. Lot size, list price, basically $390. Keep looking down here, see what else we've got. Sometimes there's not a ton of information for multifamily properties, so don't let that stress you out too much. So they're not breaking it down by the units, so we don't know a ton about it. All right, let's go ahead and go back up. We'll just look through the photos real quickly, just so we can kind of see property condition, even though they said that it was renovated. Some people have different ideas of what renovation looks like and different tastes for cosmetic updates. All right. So it looks fine. I mean, there are some things you could probably do to make it a little bit more tenant-proofed, a little bit nicer, but all in all, it looks fine. New carpets. Let's go ahead and scroll down through here. Oh, that's about it. All right, so maybe a little bit lower as far as the renovation costs go. So let's go ahead. If you downloaded this spreadsheet, you can go ahead and open up now. If not, you can just kind of follow along. All right, so hopefully you can see this. So starting with asking price, essentially $390. Oops, $390 is what we're looking for here. Having trouble typing today. Potential offer price. This is going to be dependent on your market. So you can ask hopefully you have an investor-friendly agent that you're working with. You can ask them. So it just depends. Is this going to be a popular property? Is it priced well? What's the demand going to be? Does it need a bunch of renovations, etc.? So let's just say we're going to offer list price for now. We can always change this later to see how it affects our numbers. All right, renovations. It looked like it was fine. I mean, I always say, let's just say, at least $3,000 per unit. You're probably going to have to do some stuff. So let's just say $6,000. Lease up fees. This is essentially if you are going to either have a property manager manage the property. It's possible that they have a one-time setup fee. You could put that in here. It's also possible that they're going to charge you each time they place tenants. And so you could put that in there. Another possibility is even if you're going to self-manage, maybe you're going to pay a property manager to place the tenants, to screen them, show the property, all that stuff. So if you're going to do that, they'll tell you how much that costs. You could put that in here. If you're planning to do it all yourself, just leave it blank. All right, going down here, we're at down payment. This is a duplex, so basically 2 to 4 units that are not owner occupied are going to require 25% down most of the time. So we'll keep this at 25%. You can see basically anything that's yellow here, that stuff you can edit. Anything that's white is a formula. Anything that's blue, you can also edit. These are just some assumptions that I put in here that you're welcome to change if they're not quite right. So going down to the next line, closing costs. Closing costs total, so closing costs in loan points, will usually be about 1 to 3% of the purchase price. We're going to leave this at 1. It might end up being 2, but you can ask your lender for this information. All right, so we'll just leave that as is. So that was our property information. We're now down here in monthly income. So rental income. So you can see this is a white box. So where is this coming from? We're just going to scan over here. So there's a place for current rents, and they didn't tell us what the current rents are. It's possible that it's in the MLS listing. So if you're working with an agent, you could get that from them. But honestly, that doesn't really tell us a lot. What we want is pro forma rent. So that's the potential market rents that you can get in today's market. So that's our pro forma rents over here. So we are going to go look in Rentometer. So I've already pulled this up. So it's rentometer.com. There are a couple other places you could look. You can look at Zillow Rents. You can look at a website called Zumper.com. But this is what I typically look at least for the initial analysis. So I've typed in the address, beds, 3 beds, 1 bath. 6 months is fine for now. Usually it'll give us enough data to be able to draw some conclusions, hit search. If you want like the full meal deal details, you'll have to pay for the pro account. Otherwise, I think you get like, I don't know, 3 searches a day or something on the free account, at least last time I looked. Okay, so as we look here, it'll show you where these other properties are. So the property we're looking at is right here in the West Central neighborhood. So we see average 1748, median 1750, so pretty spot on there, highs and lows. It's a property in decent condition, and so in a decent area. So I think that 1750 seems pretty reasonable. So we're just going to go ahead and go with that for now. And again, if you're feeling kind of uncertain about that, you could go look on Zillow Rents or on Zumper and just kind of cross compare. And so we'll just say we're going to get 1750 for unit 1, 1750 for unit 2, and then you'll see it pulls this 3,500 all the way back over here. But I'm not making you dizzy out there. Okay, other income. This would be something like if you had coin-op laundry, if you had a garage space you were going to charge the tenants to use, if you had a shop that you were going to rent out separately, you could put that here in other income. This doesn't seem to have any other income, so we're just going to leave that to blank. All right, vacancy rate. I have it set at 8%. Spokane is actually a little bit lower than that, but I like to keep it at 8% just to kind of have a little bit of a more conservative cushion. So you can do the research on your own market and decide what feels right. But that's essentially just building in a little bit of money so that if you do have a vacancy, that's not affecting your overall cash flow. We've already kind of accounted for it so that you won't be underwater on this property because usually there are vacancies occasionally. All right, moving down, monthly expenses, landlord paid utilities. Often landlords will pay for water, sewer, and garbage, and then they will charge their tenants either to pay them back or they'll have their tenants pay directly for electricity and gas. So if you don't know this, again, you can have your agent ask the listing agent, the one representing the seller, if they can get this information. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. But I would say just assume, I don't know, $75 to $100 a month per unit. So let's say we're just going to say 75 per month per unit, so 150 total since there are 2 units. And then we'll move on. So again, let's not belabor this. Let's just make some assumptions and move on. We'll find out later when we do our due diligence. All right, HOA dues. This is not an HOA. I don't like properties in HOAs, but that's a story for another video. All right, home equity line of credit payment. If you are funding this purchase with a home equity line of credit, you can put the payment in there. If you're not, don't worry about it. All right, annual operating expenses, property taxes. So let's not freak out and think, oh my gosh, I don't know what they are. I don't think it said. Let's go back and look at our Redfin listing here. Sometimes agents put it in, sometimes they don't, but I'll show you how we can find it otherwise. before we all just freak out that we don't know the answer. Okay. I don't think it is in here. So where I would go to look for this is the parcel information. So even if you're not in Spokane County, you will have access to the same information. It's public information. So you just need to figure out what county your property is in and then just type in, let's say it's like King County, and then say parcel search or parcel map. Actually, let's go with parcel search. So Crane County parcel search, whatever it is. All right. So once you found that, you'll type in the address. We'll hit search. So this will give you some good info. It'll show you who owns the property. It's owned by an LLC. This is also a good time just to double check that this is actually zoned for multifamily for 2 to 4 units. And so we can see in the description here, it says 2 to 4 units. Often what happens, especially here, is that people kind of like Frankenstein old houses into duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, and they're not zoned multifamily. Not the end of the world, but we just like to check. Okay, so let's go ahead and scan down here. Taxable land. Here we go. Total taxes for 2022, $2,040.70. So 2041 is our answer here. So that didn't take too long. Insurance, again, we're going to just have to make some assumptions here unless you have a insurance person that you can kind of have on speed dial. But I'd say estimating, at least in our market, anywhere from $800 to $1,000, $1,200 per unit is totally reasonable. So let's just say it's going to be, let's just say $1,600 for insurance premium. And then you'll see on these next few items, this again is just creating kind of a contingency budget for things like, so for the CapEx budget, this is just like big things that might need to be replaced, like the roof or the hot water heater, a furnace, stuff like that. We're just going to keep a little bit of money in a little pot for this. So I put 5% in here. Maintenance budget, also 5%. These two things can vary. So like this is a very old property, 1894, long time ago. So I might bump these up a little bit if I'm worried about the condition after I walk through it and see, okay, it looks like they actually did some renovations and some updates over the years. Maybe I'll keep it around here. If it's new construction, you can also decrease these because we're not expecting to have some huge expenses right out of the gate. All right. And then last thing here is property management. It's set at 8%. 10% is actually way more typical for Spokane, so I could change that to 10 if I was going to have somebody property manage it, or you could take that out and set it at 0 if you're going to manage it yourself. Okay, so then we'll kind of scan over here to the next column. Oh, and you can put the property address up there if you'd like. So you'll see that this is where the analysis comes in. So it's taking all of this data that we just entered in here, it's bringing it over here. So we can see that the total operating income, $38,000, operating expenses, $13,500. Our net is $25,000. Can look through the rest of this. Our cap rate, monthly cash flow, $49. Don't spend it all in one place. Annual cash flow, $592. So I wouldn't say this is a total home run. I usually try to find at least $150 or $100 sometimes per month per door is what I would like to see. So this is a little bit low, but let's not stop there. Let's just keep looking. Cash on cash return, 0.54%. So that's not great. So that's basically like how much cash flow will you get based on the amount of cash that you put in to purchase the property and any renovations you did. All right, principal reduction, appreciation. Some people like to factor in appreciation. Some people don't. Up to you there. Total return on investment, 31%. So still not terrible. It just depends what your metrics are, right? But this will give you the data to be able to look at all of these things and decide. You can see the loan amount is on this other tab. It's just automatically being calculated in your mortgage calculator. Loan points, this is what I mentioned. You'll have to ask your lender about this. It might be 1%, might be 2%. Amortization, we'll keep that the same. Most of these are going to be 30-year loans. Interest rate, 7.5%. That's probably decently accurate. Usually investment property loans are going to be at a higher interest rate than a primary residence. So primary residence right now, I think, are about 6.5%. So 7.5% is probably fairly realistic. Annual appreciation rate, we are actually a lot higher than 8% in Spokane. I think it's been about 30% year over year, but I'm not going to put that in there to totally blow up these numbers. So we'll just leave it at 8 for the time being. All right. So this just kind of gives you a nice little snapshot. I know this took us a little while to get through, but once you start doing this and getting used to where you find the information and entering everything in, this will take you 5 minutes or less per property. So you can just cruise right through a bunch of properties. You could say, no, 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 no. Or what's also cool with this is that, like this one looks like it might not be a good deal because you're like, I don't want to make just $50 a month in cash flow. That doesn't seem cool for putting so much money in. What you can do with this is decide what does make sense. So maybe getting the property at, let's say, $350,000. Make sure I put enough zeros in there. What does that look like for our return? So now we look over here, monthly cash flow, $259 a month. Our cash on cash, 3%. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. So what this can also inform is how to make this into a deal. And maybe in your market, you're like, nobody's going to accept, $40,000 less than the asking price. And so that is what it is. So maybe you would just discard this one and say, let's keep looking. But you can also use this to figure out how to make it into a deal. So you could say like, okay, no, I actually want to make more than that. So the max price I could offer is $325,000 because then I'd be making almost $400 a month in cash flow. Not, home run, but not terrible. That's what I can offer. I'm going to write that offer, see what they say. We can try to negotiate. So you can try to figure out how to make it work. We could also, if there's other ways to add income, you could add coin-op laundry if there's not laundry in the units. Lots of different options there. So that is our analysis. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. I hope that you grab this spreadsheet and run through some deals. The more deals you analyze, the easier this is going to become and the more familiar you're going to become with spotting a deal when it's a deal and figuring out how to make a deal a deal. So happy deal hunting, and I'll see you in the next video.